we'll conclude our discussion of Excel by going over some advanced conditional and logical functions. Recall that we had three different functions that gave us the sum, the count, and average of a range of cells, and these were called sum, count, and average. Well, we can take it one step further. There are additional functions where we can get the sum, the count, and the average of ranges of cells that meet specific criteria. So these are called sum if, count if, and average if. So let me explain sum if first. So this is how this would appear in the formula bar. So you have equals, sum if, and then you would have three arguments, the range, the criteria, and then the sum range. So the idea with this is you select your range of cells that's going to contain the criteria. So it may just be a single column. It usually is just one column of your data. And then your criteria is going to be the text or the value that exists within this range of cells. And then the sum range is going to be another column, the range of numbers that you want to get the sum of. So think of it this way. So let's say I have a column of, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Let's do like colors, I guess. Maybe we have a column that has some colors, and then we have another column that has values associated with all those colors. And those colors may appear several times. And maybe my criteria is blue. So what the range and criteria arguments are going to do is I'm going to look down this column that has these colors, and I'm going to look for the rows that have blue. And then in the column that has my sum range, I'm only going to take the sums of the rows that correspond to the rows that have the word blue in it. So that's just an example. So the whole point here is that we're trying to get the sum of a specific set of values in my sum range, and it's going to depend on which cells in my other range contains criteria in it. So that's what we're doing. And then we apply the same idea for count if and average if. So with count if, we only have two arguments, just the range and the criteria. So we're just simply counting the number of cells in the range that has the criteria in it. Now, the criteria, it could be an exact value, or we can even use less than and greater than operations. So we'd have to include those in the quotes. So we can do like less than 5 or something like that. And we'll see some examples of this in a little bit. And then average if works the same way as sum if, except instead of getting the sum of a specific range of cells, or specific values in the cells, we're going to get the average. So we'll compute the average of the average range that satisfies the criteria that's in our other range column. Let's apply the sum if, average if, and count if functions to a somewhat realistic example. So here we have some data about a collection of classic cars. So we have the makes, the model years, the models, the owners, when they were acquired, the horsepowers, the values, and the insurance for all of them. So we can get specific information from all this data by just using these functions. So we're going to do some stuff over here, and we'll take care of these things over here a little bit later on. But these are some different types of criteria where we can get these calculations. So for example, if we want to get the value of convertibles, well, I can go through here and find each convertible and take the value and add them up, but that defeats the purpose of using these functions in the first place. So we'll start by using sum if, so we can do equals sum if, and my range is going to be the column or range that contains this criteria. So in this case, I want to find the value of all the convertibles, so that means I need to find the cell range that contains the word convertible in it. So that's going to be this set of values right here. So that's going to be my range. My criteria is going to be convertible in quotes. And then my sum range is going to be the corresponding range or that has the values that I want to get the sum of. So in this case, I'm going to pick this range right here. So what this is going to do is I'm going to look under this model column, and for each row that has the word convertible in it, I'm going to add the corresponding value in this column. So sure enough, that gives me $153,500. So if I were to go through each of these numbers here and add them up, it should give me $153,500. Yeah, that should do it. So the whole point is we can use this one function to get that information. So the sum of all the values where the model is convertible. So we can do that. Let's do an example of average if. So here, we're going to get the average acquisition date of hard tops. So I can do equals average if, and I can do, so we can find model again. So we're going to select our model range, and this time we want hard top. And so we want acquisition date. So we're going to put the year acquired. So we'll close our parentheses. And sure enough, this is 1958. Now the font looks a little weird, but we're not going to worry too much about it. I mean, we'll go ahead and change it, just so it's consistent with everything else. Yeah, that works. But anyway, so our average acquisition date here is 1958. So what we did is we looked at all the models with hardtop on it. And if we took those years and we got the average, that should give us 1958. And then number of hardtops, we can use COUNTIF to count the number of hardtops. So we can do equals COUNTIF. So here's my range. And once again, my criteria is going to be hardtop. And sure enough, it says that there are 5 hardtops. And if I count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 5 hardtops. So sure enough, this does work. Now we can take these SUMIF, AVERAGEIF, and COUNTIF functions a step further. Those 3 functions work if we have a single criteria. But what if we have multiple criteria? Well, we have some functions that take care of that as well. We have SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, and AVERAGEIFs. The only difference as far as the names are concerned is just that we tack on an S at the end. But the way they appear in our formula bar are a little different. So let's take a look at SUMIFs. So notice that the sum range argument is no longer at the end, but it's now at the beginning. So it's over here now instead of being at the end. So the idea with this is it works just like SUMIF, except now we just have multiple criteria. So we're going to compute the sum of the range of cells in some range, but it has to meet multiple criteria. So we would have the first criteria range and then the criteria that's associated with that range. Then we would have a second criteria range and then the criteria associated with that. And we can have as many criteria ranges and criteria that we want. We then have COUNTIFs, where we would have the range and then one criteria, and then a second range and then another criteria and so forth. So this is just simply going to count the number of cells in a particular range that meets the multiple criteria. And then with AVERAGEIFs, it's formatted very similar to the SUMIFs. It's just our average range is now the first argument over here instead of the last, and then the rest of it's just going to be all of our criteria. So we're going to compute the average of a range of cells that meets the multiple criteria. Let's go back to our car example that we had before, and now we're going to deal with these values here, and we can use SUMIFs, AVERAGEIFs, and COUNTIFs for that. So we'll start by getting the value of the convertibles that were purchased after 1975. So we're getting the values of the convertibles, but out of all of those, we only want the ones that were purchased after 1975. So let's go ahead and try that out. So we'll do equals SUMIFs. So we need to select our sum range first. So it's going to be the value column here. So our first criteria is going to be what we had before. So we only want convertibles. So we'll select this range. And then we'll select the criteria. So in this case, it's going to be convertible. So now we can put a second criteria. So here we want to pick only the ones that were purchased after 1975 or acquired after 1975. So our criteria is going to be the acquired column. And then for my criteria, I'm still going to use quotes, but what I'm going to put inside, whoops, I can fix it up here. I don't want to just say 1975, because all that's going to do is it's going to give me the vehicles that were purchased, all the convertibles that were purchased during the year 1975, and there aren't any convertibles that were purchased there. So if I want to have something that was after 1975, I have to say that it's greater than 1975. So the way we would do this is we just include a greater than symbol inside the quotes. You are allowed to do this. So this will say, find all the values in here that are greater than 1975. So if I hit enter, I get $69,500. So let's see here. So this convertible was after 1975. This one was after 1975. This one was not. This one was not. This one was. And this one was. So it would get the sum of all those, which comes to $69,500.
So the whole point here is that we can have multiple columns of criteria. We just got to make sure we specify them and choose what we want from there. So let's do an example of average ifs. So we want to get the average insurance cost for hard tops with more than 250 horsepower. So we do equals average ifs. So I need the average range, so we want the average insurance cost. So that's going to be this column right here. And then my first criteria range is going to be the model, because we only want hard tops. So then we can put for the criteria hard top. And then my criteria range 2, so we want ones with more than 250 horsepower. So we're going to select the column with horsepower, and I'm going to say greater than 250. So this should give me the average insurance for all the hard tops where the horsepower is greater than 250. So if I hit enter, that's $1,600. So if we can find ones that are over 250, nope, that's not one. That's not one. Nope. That one is not. So here we go. So there's only one in this case. So this one right here, so the insurance is $1,600. So sure enough, it's only going to be just this one value, and that's okay. So let's do an example of count ifs. So we're going to get the number of hard tops that were purchased since 1975. So the year has to be at least 1975. So we're going to do equals count ifs. So my first criteria is going to be the model, and we want hard top again. So then we want to look at the acquired date, and it's got to be since 1975. So we're going to do greater than equal 1975. And we see here that we have one that was purchased in 1975. In fact, it's exactly this one right here that was purchased in the year 1975. But sure enough, the whole point is that we can have multiple criteria. We just have to make sure that we specify it.